Welcome to another Murdock Music Minute. It's a marvelous time for another review. This time with a real heavyweight among classic albums, even though its title track dances loftily on a swing rhythm. This album review contains the mystic powers of nature, Irish Americana, and the inspiring qualities of Bob Dylan and the band. Welcome to a musical moon night with Van the Man. What do you do if you are an aspiring solo artist, but your album hasn't been received favorably? Well, you better come up with a great album next. That is basically the situation Van Morrison found himself in 1969. How he got there? A little slideshow tries to tell the story of his career up to that point, after which I'll be back in order to review what I usually try to avoid on my channel, a canonized classic. George Ivan Morrison is best known as a jazz-influenced R&B singer with a characteristic voice, but he actually began his career as a multi-instrumentalist in various show bands in the late 50s. Born in Belfast, Northern Ireland, Morrison came from a Protestant working-class family, and his father had an unusually huge record collection with jazz and blues artists that formed young Van's taste in music. At the age of 12, he formed his first band, a skiffle group in which he played guitar, but later, as a teenager, he changed to saxophone as the instrument of his choice. After finishing school, he earned his first money as a window cleaner, yet never gave up on the idea of becoming a full-time musician. With the band The Monarchs, he toured Europe, aged 17. The band even recorded a single in Germany in 1963. When that group disbanded, Morrison first was hired as a blues singer until in 1964 he formed an R&B band with like-minded young musicians who called themselves Them, based on a horror movie. By now Morrison played saxophone and harmonica and also was a singer. He wrote the fiery garage song Gloria, which became an instant live success and the band's best-known hit, even though it was originally only a single B-side. Despite their popularity, Them always had an unstable, changing lineup, and Morrison himself left the group after 2 albums and several singles. Them's former producer saw potential in Morrison as a solo artist and produced his first solo record in New York City. However, what Morrison believed to be sessions for a few possible singles was released, without his knowledge, as a full album. Though he was very dissatisfied with this line of action and the artistic result, the album included Brown-Eyed Girl, which quickly became a top 10 hit and for many casual listeners remains his most popular song to this day. After the sudden death of his producer, he had, on the one hand, finally artistic freedom, but also found himself in legal disputes regarding his contract that prohibited him from recording or performing in the New York area. Things finally turned to the better when Warner Brothers agreed to buy him out of that old contract. Now he could finally concentrate on recording an album in keeping with his artistic vision. That album became Astral Weeks, an idiosyncratic cycle of often abstract, free-flowing, mysterious songs somewhere between singer-songwriter folk and jazz. It was released in 1968 with little to no commercial success, but has gained an almost larger-than-life reputation of being one of the most important albums of all time ever since. Initially not exactly enamored with the experimental nature of their latest artist's label debut, Warner Brothers was putting a certain pressure on the follow-up release. Written and produced entirely by Morrison himself, 1970s Moondance, to some extent, was a make-or-break situation for the singer. Well. I really don't really enjoy talking about or reviewing albums that are collectively deemed classic masterpieces on my channel. The reasons for that are manifold. It can either become rather intimidating because there are these larger than life albums, or what is mostly the case, it can become very boring and redundant because everybody's talked about them and, praised them. Or it might be a classic album that I like but don't really regard as that stone cold classic that a lot of listeners say it is. I could digress now and insert a little list of big albums that I enjoy but think are maybe a little bit overrated in terms of that classic status. But I guess that's not really interesting at this point. So let's just focus on this one album and find out if this is going to be the first truly negative review on my channel. Here we've got the album in question with its very straightforward, rather basic cover artwork, just a few photographs of Van Morrison himself, close-up photo shoots. Nothing too special, nothing too fancy, but that suits the music contained within very well. And I quite like this cover artwork. It's simple, but at the same time rather iconic. And at the back you have a portrait of the man as a young artist, once more, in full. And the credits. So Morrison himself plays rhythm guitar and tambourine, and of course is the vocalist. We have Jack Schroeder. Maybe it should read Schroeder. I'm not sure. On alto and soprano saxophone, Colin Tilton tenor sax and flute, Jeff Labus piano, organ, and clavinet. John Platania, lead and rhythm guitars, John Klingberg, bass, and Gary Malabar on drums and vibes, as well as Guy Masson on the Congo drums, plus some background singers. They are here in true 1970s fashion referred to as girl singers. On Crazy Love and Brand New Day, Emily Houston, Judy Clay, and Jackie Verdell. Produced by, and that is quite remarkable, Van Morrison himself. The album was released on Warner Brothers, and that's also my copy here. It's a Warner Brothers. It's a Warner Brothers copy, and for you audiophiles or you vinyl collectors, this is a UK pressing and possibly actually first pressing from 1970. At least it says here, it only says produced in 1970, printed in the UK. It doesn't state any other date or any repressing date, but I'm not 100% sure because I bought this for a quite reasonable price secondhand. However, there's no barcode on this album, so it definitely, at least it is a UK pressing from the 70s, maybe maybe an original UK pressing. But take this with a grain of salt. I'm not an expert. It definitely is an older UK pressing, at least. So much for the technical details of my own copy. But what's more interesting is, what about the music and the album in general? The opening track is called Stoned Me. This song starts the album in a very mellow way, and you will probably hear this word several times during my review. Stoned Me is based on childhood memories of going fishing and being overwhelmed by nature or experiences in nature. The song introduces the sound that defines the album for the biggest part: slow to mid-tempo songs and a very American sound. While writing the material for this album, Van had spent some time in the Catskills near Woodstock, which obviously influenced the musical direction of this album. While not being real country rock, the sound of this and many other tracks on Moondance clearly is what us modern listeners would nowadays call Americana, and this reflects the huge influence of Bob Dylan's John Wesley Harding album, and even more so the band. But Morrison adds his own touch to it, with hints of jazz, but most of all a certain soulfulness. The playing is intricate and tasty, with acoustic guitar chiming in occasionally and a piano solo. The lyrics speak of sun, rain, and water. The simplicities of life, predominantly country life, were the big fashion in rock music from 1968 onwards, after the psychedelic dreams had faded away. And that can also be heard in the music of the late 60s that became simpler, more down to earth, and more rural sounding.
Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Oh, the water. Hope it don't rain all day. And it stung me to my soul.
Stoned Me is followed by the title track, Moondance. With its jazz arrangement and swagger, it sticks out from the rest of the tracks. Morrison audibly takes delight in this musical environment and created a true jazz standard. It's got a walking bass, a saxophone solo, and everything needed for the genre. It's a dance between lovers during a romantic October night. American Werewolf, anyone? Originally not released as a single, it was released as one in 1977. Its memorable piano chord progression, a distinct walking bass, joyful flute, and an overall top-notch band make this a superb title track, and it has become a mainstay in Morrison's live repertoire.
You know the night's magic seemed to whisper and hush. You know the soft moonlight seems to shine in your blush. Can I just have one more moon dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love? Well, I wanna I'll make love to you tonight.
Track 3, Crazy Love. This is a gospel-y soul ballad. To me, it sounds very much like a song that Dylan could have written with soul backing vocals added. Crazy Love was also released as a single B-side in 1970. It is one of the most popular songs of Moondance, and I cannot really disagree. It's a gorgeous, sweet, laid-back little track.
Yeah, it make me righteous. Yeah, it make me whole. Yeah, it make me mellow down into my soul. She gave me love, 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 crazy love. She gave me love, 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 crazy love.
Before it gets too intimate, Morrison bursts out with Caravan, a joyous track about living like a traveling gypsy, but also an ode to the magic of music and the radio. The band is in top-notch form here. It's a very dynamic, positive track, providing the perfect backdrop for Morrison's vocal outbursts. It is one of my all-time favorite feel-good songs, especially in the amazing live version with the band on the Last Waltz album. And the circle comes to a full close. Caravan is the perfect example of that blend between soul and the rootsier American sound of Dylan and the band that I talked about in the beginning. A bit of trivia, the drums on the studio version were played by Gary Malabar, who we also encountered in my review of Fly Like an Eagle by the Steve Miller Band, but Moondance was before that. Caravan is a beauty and a flash of energy. This was probably the first Van Morrison track that made me really aware of Van Morrison as a solo artist. An absolute classic.
Sweet lady of the night, I shall reveal you. If you will, turn it up, a little bit higher. Radio, turn it up, so you know. Radio, la 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 la, la la la.
One more song to go before side A is over, but it's not just another song, it's Into the Mystic. For many listeners, the key track of the album. This is more folk meets a little bit of country rock, and it is very mellow. The bass playing is very groovy, there is a gentle acoustic guitar, more saxophone, and of course Van Morrison's great vocals. A sweet song about the mystic force of both nature and music, which is a recurring theme in Morrison's lyrics, not only on this album. Overall, I have to say this song is more interesting to me for its lyrics than for its music. Moondance continues on side 2 with the short, livelier Come Running. The origins of this song lie in the times of the predecessor album, Astral Weeks. It's a light soul jazz song. These Dreams of You, which follows, is an interesting one, as its lyrics are based on a nightmare Van Morrison had of Ray Charles getting assassinated. Funnily enough, the song comes with a breezy blues shuffle. There also is a funny short saxophone solo, and overall the song has an absurd, light-hearted feel about it. Then we get to Brand New Day, A song which is directly inspired by Morrison hearing the band on the radio and thus finding the direction his own new album would move into. It is a slow country rock song with a gospel flavor. It's a song about gaining new hope and purpose in life, and again, Morrison employs images of nature, most of all the weather, in the lyrics. The last two songs on Moondance are surprisingly the most uptempo entries. Everyone digresses from the overall tone of the album with a swiftly played harpsichord or clavinet intro sounding as if we suddenly had switched to a psychedelic Baroque pop album from the 60s. Later on, a flute joins the arrangement on what is a joyous celebratory track. We shall walk again with our heads so high. It's a charming, very hopeful piece of music, and while other listeners may criticize it for being a bit of a misfitting outlier on an otherwise very uniform album, this for me is a late highlight on Moondance. By the way, hipsters know this track from the Wes Anderson movie The Royal Tenenbaums.
Everyone, 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 everyone. By the winding stream, we shall lay and dream.
It ends with an unexpected Christmas song. Well, not really a Christmas song, even though the occasion is mentioned. On this very R&B tinged track, Morrison looks back at the time he was living in New York during the ill-fated sessions of what should become his debut album. There is a bouncy groove, hand claps, a sharp horn section, as well as opaque, slightly biting lyrics that could be interpreted as a stab against the music business. Van Morrison certainly is not always an easy person. In fact, he could be seen as a perfect testimonial for all the grumpy old men out there these days, and he never held back his opinions, which resulted in some admittedly very embarrassing albums during the COVID years. But Glad Tidings is an excellent send off.
So believe no lies and try your eyes and realize by surprise. La 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 la, 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 la 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 la.
On release in 1970, Moondance was an immediate success. Critics loved it, the listeners loved it, and it reached the US top 30 as well as the UK top 40. This must have been a great relief for Van Morrison and Warner Brothers. Moondance is an important milestone for 70s singer-songwriters and soft rock, for better or worse, and as I've argued, it is also an early example of mellow Americana. The album has gained endless accolades over the years and remains one of Van Morrison's most iconic releases. And for those who hoped for finally a really vitriolic negative review on this channel, I have to disappoint you. This time I have to agree with the classic status here. I just love Moondance. This is a great album. A gorgeous record with direct yet also intricate music that slowly reveals itself to the listener. It is a fairly homogeneous record with a few exceptions, so that on first listens, maybe some of the tracks will tend to blur into each other, and yet you will come back to this album time and time again and realize how many outstanding tracks are, you know, collected on this album. I think Van Morrison here reached an early peak as a songwriter, and this is exactly what you need if you'd like to come down a bit from the stress of the working week or life in the city. Yeah, Moondance, high quality music without a doubt. Let me know what you think of this album, or maybe also other albums by Van Morrison. Thanks for listening to me. If you made it to the end of this video now, you are a true trooper, and maybe consider liking and most of all subscribing to my little music channel here. I will be back with more album reviews or rankings, or maybe lists of songs regarding certain topics, whatever comes to my twisted mind. Stay tuned for that. Thank you very much. Murdock's Music Minute over and out.
Yeah, when that foghorn whistle blows, I gotta hear it. I don't have